Hey guys, it's Caban here with True Champion Gaming. Since OP02 is right around the corner, we wanted to do a quick rules video that may go over some situations that may pop up for you during constructed or even pre-release play this weekend that you may not be thinking of or you haven't found out yet. So let's just get right into it. First off, one of the secret rares from the set, Kuzan, has two abilities which actually work quite well together. The first one is that he is reducing your opponent's character cost by 5, and his second ability is that he actually KOs a cost of 0 on your opponent's side of the board. Now, his reduction is happening at the same time as that on-play effect. So when you play him from hand, you are able to KO something that originally costed 5 because it would now be a 0. And you can actually KO higher costs with him if you have used your leader ability or some other cards to further reduction cost. But just remember, you do get that reduction of 5 for that KO of 0 or less. Second, we're going to talk about a little bit more of a complicated one, and this is the Caban leader ability. Now, when you use his leader ability, treat it more as a permanent that's going to apply for the rest of your turn until you use it. Now, what I mean by that is that he says that you have to have 1 or 0 characters in order to reduce the next Land of Wano 3 cost or higher character by 1. However, if you activate that ability while you only have 1 or 0 characters, and then you play an additional character after that, as long as it is not a Land of Wano 3 cost or higher, because it would trigger his effect. Let's say you play a Momo, for example, because this is the most relevant situation that this applies to. If you have, let's say, an Okiku on board, you activate your leader skill, and then you play a Momo. Now you have 2 characters on board, and the Momo wouldn't have triggered the leader ability since it cost 1. But you can use Momo and search out, let's say, another Okiku or a Yamato, and now even though you have 2 characters on board, you can still play that with its cost reduced. And that's because the Caban ability is more of a permanent for the rest of the turn until you use it, and not a activate it and you have to immediately use that ability or lose out on it. Like I said, the time that this is most relevant is when you are wanting to search out something with Momo. That has came up in our team testing for sure. Now, talking about leader abilities, we've got a ruling that's a little similar to one. The Edward Newgate 9-drop has an ability that makes it so that you can't take life cards from your abilities for the rest of the turn. This is most common in use with the Edward Newgate leader as well, but we're actually going to be talking about other cards that take life, like Sanji from OP1. He has an ability where you can take a life to gain an additional boosted power, and you put Dawn on him as well, so he kind of gets like a 4k buff. However, the Newgate character does stop you from activating this ability, and since you can't pay the cost for Sanji's effect, you will not get the Dawn or the power effect either. You simply just cannot do anything, and Sanji will essentially be a vanilla for that turn. Just important to know if your opponent's trying to do something like that, or for you to not accidentally play Sanji when you can't even use him. The next one's a little bit more simple, easy to understand. I don't think a lot of people would be confused about this, but it's a little bit more of a tip than a ruling. The Ivankov leader ability is not optional. Almost all draw abilities in this game are not optional, and you can lose the game by having no cards left in your deck. If you're playing against Ivankov, it might seem like they have an endless pool of resources that they can just keep drawing for free and there's no setbacks. However, you do need to remember that if they do deck out, you will win the game. So if you're playing against them, or you are an Ivankov player yourself, and you notice that that deck is starting to get real thin, that is a consideration to think, okay, my opponent might not be wanting to fully dump their hand for counters and stuff because they aren't wanting to get 3 cards out of their deck minimum each turn, because they'll have to draw 1 for turn, and then they would possibly, play that and then draw 2 more at the end of their turn or something. So that is just an important thing to remember, either as a pilot or playing against them. It's not optional. They won't be able to choose to only draw 1 or none. So it's just really good resource balancing to keep in mind. Now, this last ruling does apply to this set, but it absolutely will apply to every set past this as well, and will only continue to get more important. Marco has an ability that refers to something having Whitebeard pirates in its type. Now, because it specifically says it that way, it does mean that you can use cards that have something like former Whitebeard pirates in its type instead of just Whitebeard pirates. And it's because of the phrasing saying in its type. If you look at something like Nami from OP1, it just says grab a Straw Hat Crew. It doesn't say grab a card that has Straw Hat Crew in its type. Otherwise, it would have the same type of ruling where you could grab something that did say, for example, like former Straw Hat Crew. So that's going to be something that's really easy to miss if you're not paying attention for it. The best example for this is that Marco, if you were playing a red-green deck, like red-green Law, red-green Luffy, could actually trash Izo from OP1 for his effect, because she does say former Whitebeard pirates, and he just needs a card with Whitebeard pirates in its type. That would be the best example of this. So it's not necessarily a situation that might occur pretty frequently in OP2, but it is now possible to have that kind of like technicality, and that will be something that does become more frequent as this game goes on. We'll keep the outro short, just like this video. Bye.